Johnny Campbell, the first cheerleader. On November 2nd, 1898, a student at the University of Minnesota decided that he no longer wanted to cheer from the stands. Instead, he wanted to cheer in front of the stands. Campbell got out of his seat, stood in front of the crowd, and began cheering. Varsity, varsity, varsity. Johnny and another student by the name of Thomas Peebler had the same idea around the same time, even though Johnny is given credit for being the founder of cheerleading. After that night that Johnny stood in front of the crowd and cheered for his team, the fraternity Gamma Sigma was formed. They were a squad of 6 male students who cheered together at every football game, and it was founded in 1903. Women were still a minority at the time, so they didn't become cheerleaders until the early 1920s. Around the time of women wanting to be cheerleaders, the components of cheerleading were changing. Cheerleaders no longer just did dances and chants. They added things to the sport such as flips and acrobatics. Stunting also became a thing that cheerleaders did. Cheerleading today is much different than it was back in the early 1900s. We now have things like cheer competitions where they do dances, chants, and stunts. Campbell's passion for cheerleading on the football team has evolved so much over the years to make cheerleading what it is today. We have more guidelines, more rules, and a lot of different things are put into play. Boys aren't involved in cheerleading as much as they were in the early 1900s. Boys are now part of co-ed teams, and they do things like lifting girls into the air single-handedly. This is far from what Campbell did in the 1920s. Although cheerleading has changed so much since the early 1900s, its roots will always be the same. Johnny Campbell will always be given credit for being the first cheerleader. Males have cheered throughout history, such as Franklin Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, Ronald Reagan, and Bush. According to the history of cheerleading, the pom-poms, the outfits, the yells, it's a sport so closely linked with high school and college as to be almost inseparable. Many a teenage girl had dreamed of being a cheerleader. Not that this sport is just for women, many college teams are mixed. On what's more, the first cheerleaders were men. A young man by the name of Johnny Campbell got so excited by the yell, he left his seat and went to stand in front of the crowd, jumping and waving his arms in excitement. And that's how the first cheerleader came about. Then, thanks to Campbell, 5 other enthusiastic college students made the first squad of cheerleaders. Without cheerleading at football games, they wouldn't be the same. According to Varsity Cheer's article, Big A Cheerleader History, in 1898, the U of M was on a losing streak, and a medical student by the name of Johnny Campbell assembled a group to energize the team and the crowd. Johnny picked up a megaphone and rallied the team to victory with the first organized cheer. Cheerleading grew from there. This quote allows us to see how much cheerleading has evolved over the years. Thank you.